Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. Today we're going to be doing a community Q&A answering session. So we basically reached out to all of the guys in our Discord community and said, what are the big hitter questions you want answered? What would you like to understand about GODFORGE? And I will do my best to answer, I guess, anything that I can, right? So there's going to be some stuff where I'm still going to be a little bit on the fence, but generally I'm going to be answering as much as I can. And I just give you guys as good an info package as I can. So the first question, which I thought would be on here, is when do we know if we're picked for beta? And there's a bunch of other questions around beta, right? So when's it going to happen? How many people are going to play? All that type of stuff. So I guess, firstly, there is going to be a deep dive answer to this question on the podcast, which is coming this Thursday. We have Ash on the podcast with myself, Sham, and Brad Chosen. And basically, we talk about the beta at length and how some things are actually changing for what we originally planned for the beta. So yeah, definitely going to be a really deep dive answer to that question. And so what I can tell you right now is we've made some changes to our plan for the beta. And what that looks like is, rather than we're going to throw you into a world which is half finished and give you some of the story but all of the story and kind of let you play through some of that stuff, we're actually going to have a different experience which we're crafting right now, which is going to be more in tune with I guess a challenge and a fun challenge at that, with the ability to win some really cool stuff. So that's changing. It does mean that our date is going back. Our date was going to go back anyway. We've had a senior leadership meeting around this, and basically we would not have had enough of the visual effects done and polished by the time that we set. So I guess it's a watch this space in terms of time, more likely to be the very end of June, early July. And in terms of how do we know if we're picked, back to the original question, basically you will be emailed to let you know which wave of the beta you are in, alpha, beta, whatever you want to call it, you are in. And that will come through via email. We will try and get everybody who has signed up to the beta list into the game in one of the waves that we set up. So as I say, more details coming on Thursday in the podcast. It says here, in the video with Scratch, it was mentioned there will be 9 factions on release. Any reason behind the changes? Yes. So there are, so we've removed one faction, and generally it's because of other gaming companies in the world doing exactly the same thing, with probably the exception of Smite. So our Svarga faction, which is a shame because the heroes looked so freaking cool. But anyway, the Svarga faction is no longer going to be part of the game. Basically, we have been recommended that we should remove it because it's still such a massively active religion that is, and the gods are still actively worshipped all the time. We don't want to cause any offense. And yeah, so that was the main reason. And although we thought we were doing I guess a good job of depicting them in a really cool way, it doesn't matter. Basically we've been advised that is not the right thing to do. So they've been removed. There's also been some name changes, which is another one of the questions on here. Why have Kajiki and Cyber changed names? Basically, we have got now a new lore writer who is Aaron, who was actually on a podcast recently, and just wanted to have a bit more of a uniform feel for how the names are kind of depicted, and they're based on, I guess, mythological or cool locations which mean something to that mythology. So a couple of the names have changed, which you'll see in game if you've been keeping your eyes open, which means that things like merch stores and that are going to be updated as well. Okay, what's the reason behind common and uncommon heroes? So yeah, why do we have these heroes that a lot of people would class as fodder or whatever in game, even though we still put effort into them, although this guy's floating a bit, we still put effort into them for their visuals and that type of stuff. I guess it's really to give us our systems of leveling. It's to have the ability for players to feel progression. And, because there's been a lot of other questions in the Discord around, please make sure that commons or uncommons are just as useful as a legendary. Look, we're going to have game modes, I think, where that's going to be a thing. But, we've got normalized modes where we could literally turn something on and say, for this wave of normalized this week, for this season or whatever, there'll only be commons and uncommons in this mode. We could do that, right? But ultimately, for the progression system in the game and for the main kind of like, I guess, core loop of the game, it makes sense to have these kind of heroes that are going to start off as lower level, and their abilities, albeit still useful, are not as good as the higher tiers. It's mainly to give you a sense of progression through the game and to give the game that kind of like longevity and life. But and interestingly, we have had these same conversations internally. Should we just scrap common and uncommons? They do it in some games nowadays, but we really wanted that wider breadth of hero. So, you know, we're going to be launching with at least a couple of hundred heroes in game. Okay, what's this one here? If you could play GODFORGE as a player, I will be, by the way, totally blind to its development, what kind of player would you be? Oh, interesting. A lore chaser, a PvP sweat guy, a collector. So my play style generally, okay, and I played a ton of World of Warcraft, a ton of all sorts of games actually, which have got I guess a fantasy feel. I'm generally a PvE player, so I'm someone who likes to unpick challenges which are like boss related. That's my kind of like jam. That's what I enjoy to do. So I guess I would be the lore chaser stroke collector. But really for me, actually none of those really encompass what I like to do. I like to go against a challenge and unpick the best way to defeat that challenge. So for me, I like interesting bosses. I do play some PvP games. I play a bunch of League of Legends. I play a bunch of Teamfight Tactics, Hearthstone Battlegrounds, which are kind of like, I guess they're like turn-based PvP. And I do enjoy those style of games. And I've enjoyed PvP in this style of game before as well. But I much prefer for PvP a more like a normalized experience. So rather than, you know, did I get... I like to be able to outthink someone rather than just be beaten up by, you know, someone just having the ability to outbuy me. That's my personal thing. Okay, will there be a system in place to discourage the need to re-roll accounts for a better start? So I don't think we're going to be the type of game that has like a heavy re-roll type of mechanic to it. I can't see that that's going to be our thing. So I can't see that that's going to be our thing. I just don't think re-rolling is going to be a massive feature of our game. We're not someone who's like, at the end of this area, you're going to get 1 of 5 legendaries or 1 of 10 or whatever, and then you keep re-rolling until you get the good one. That's not the vibe we're going for. Are there any plans for creator-specific tools like spectator modes, custom lobbies, or lore databases to help creators tell stories in the GODFORGE universe? Spectator modes, custom lobbies. Yeah, okay. So there's some stuff, and I don't know if this is going to be for launch, okay? So, but there is definitely some stuff we want to do. We want for PvP, we want for you to be able to just select a friend or a clanmate and battle them in PvP as like a friendly battle, right? So that's one thing we want to do. I would also like for other people in your clan to be able to spectate that fight. A bit like you get in a Clash of Clans type of model. I'm not certain that's going to be in for launch, but it's definitely something we want to do. We also want for you to be able to have custom lobbies where it's like I'm pulling 16 people into this PvP battle and we're going to fight it out. Again, might not be on for launch, but it's definitely something which we're aiming to get done. In terms of lore databases to help creators tell stories, I mean, there will be like lore information within each of the heroes, if that's what you mean. So yeah, definitely. And storytelling and stuff is a big part of what we're doing. Big seasonal drops are going to have like a new wave of story that come with them, new things to play through, and heroes that relate to that, or past heroes that are already in game are kind of like the main subject of that. So yeah, there is some stuff going on around storytelling and lore. It's really important to our game. Will there be transparency showing in-game currency conversion to USD or euros? I mean, there will be shops where you can buy currency, I guess, for USD or euros. If that's what you mean. Like a web store type of shop to do that. But ultimately, in-game, it's not going to say, oh, you've got this many diamonds, and by the way, that is worth $10. Like, no, that's not going to be what we do in game. That would be weird. You said the game will not be pay to win. Money will only accelerate progress. just be careful. Like I've said, there will be modes which will not be pay to win, a bit similar to what I've just spoken about just a second ago. And a free-to-play player that plays for a long time could get to the same level as a pay-to-play player, okay? But money will accelerate progress a decent amount if you want it to, right? So let's be clear, like if someone goes out and buys a ton of shards, or for us it would be Aether Stones, and gets a load of legendaries early, they're going to get somewhere quicker than you will, most likely, right? If you're free to play. In general PvE. But there will be normalized game modes, at least 2, one at least on launch, where it's purely down to skill, knowledge of the game, etc., to try and win those game modes. And payment will never be like it unlocks stuff that someone that just is free to play can't do. So payment will never overrule that. We will have a seasonal mechanic, but it's not going to be, if you guys play Dragon Age, it's not going to be like we're resetting everything on a seasonal basis. There will be some seasonal stuff which just impacts the game flow and makes it more interesting, I guess. Mentioned previously regarding supporter packs for the game to be released before launch. Any additional information you can provide on these, prices, etc. So what will they be? There's going to be an art book which showcases a lot of the work we've been doing to progress the game. There will be some in-game stuff which you would get as part of that package. There will be different tiers of it. So if you just wanted the art book, it would be this price. If you wanted the art book plus maybe a 3D printed character plus stuff for in-game, it would be this price. We don't know all the prices and stuff yet, but we are already in the place of producing the art books and stuff like that. What will clans be like? Will there be clan battles with members, good rewards? So clans are a big part of our game, and the ability to be involved with your clan for a number of different areas of the game. So we definitely don't want clans to just be the place where we hang out and there's a clan boss to fight. There will be a clan boss to fight. But yeah, things like having the ability to transfer clan members between members of a cluster is definitely going to be a thing. Good clan chats will be a thing. Being able to share builds with your clan will be a thing. There will be... I'm not going to go into all of the clan stuff, so I think I'm going to keep that under hood for now. But there is a bunch more clan stuff which will be really interesting from launch. And then things like clan wars will probably come out post-launch, but relatively soon after launch is our plan. So that's going to be quite a big part of a game. It'll be a big feature that we eventually drop through. After GODFORGE, what's next? Okay. So we've got aspirations to be more than a one-game studio for sure. But right now, all of our concentration is on building a really great game and making sure that the player base has got a great game. So GODFORGE is our full focus, but we've already been pitched to by other groups to say, would you be interested in building this game for us? And personally, I really like these kind of like auto chess style games like Teamfight Tactics and Hearthstone Battlegrounds. We're also big sort of TGC type players that enjoy that type of game. We also really like, I guess, what do you call it? More, what's the term? You know, like XCOM style games, but I can't remember what the actual term of those are. We like general RPGs. We like roguelike style games like a Hades style. So, but it will probably be using our IP that we're building out now in GODFORGE, moved into a new game, a new genre. Probably a genre which crosses over quite closely to what we're doing with GODFORGE as well. But again, that's kind of like long time away, right? Or not like forever away, but it's definitely not our focus right now. Okay, some quick fire ones. Will there be fusions? There's likely to be fusions, yes. Probably with an interesting spin. Probably not every single month, but there will be a way to get a legendary hero every month through an activity, not necessarily a fusion. Will there be preset systems for auto runs? Yes, there will. Any plans to implement a trial function to test heroes? We have spoken about it. I'm not sure the actual answer to that yet. I can't remember where we ended on that, but definitely it's something we've spoken about and it's quite interesting. What else have we got here? Will removing gear cost currency? So have done a full video on gear actually, and gear, to remove gear will not cost currency. The only thing to do with gear which will cost currency would be to level it and to attune it. And to attune it will probably be a relatively expensive cost, because that is almost saying, I think this gear is going to live here for a long period of time. What made you pick Unity over Unreal? Unity is just straight better for any game which is going to have a heavy influence on mobile. So yeah, Unity makes a lot more sense for mobile. Why not allow bots that essentially play the game for you? Doesn't this basically just give people the option to play your game as an idol? I don't know. It's not something which we're keen to do. Seems weird question. We're not an idle game, and obviously you can play on auto and stuff, but yeah, we're not sort of setting ourselves up to be an idle game. And again, like for that, understand what you are. Don't try and be all things. If you try and be all styles of game, then ultimately you will be no style of game, right? So you definitely need to understand what you are. Will there be a test server? Not confirmed, but I can't see why not. Will GODFORGE have multiple areas to earn stats or ability bonuses, making progression feel rewarding across different parts of the game? Yes, it will. There'll be a lot of content, especially over time. And yeah, for sure, that's definitely going to be a thing. Do I have to do PvP content to get PvE gear and vice versa? That's not our plan, no. Our plan would be for PvP to reward gear that makes more sense for PvP and vice versa. Who's the employee of the month? Oh, damn. Employee of the month. Well, we literally just pulled together what I would class as a stable build so that I can go out and talk to a couple of groups that are interested in Fateless and GODFORGE. And part of that is kind of like pulling together visuals for heroes. Part of that is getting our combat feeling a bit slicker, with still some work to go, all that type of stuff. I would say, I don't know. I wonder if that was one of our own team that put that in there. I don't know. I think a lot of the team are doing a phenomenal job. John's done a phenomenal job on building out this timeline so we can actually build abilities well. The VFX team are starting to come in really strong now. We've got Henry building out new UIs to improve what we're seeing right now. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, so impossible to call that out. Too many amazing people in the team. Right, what else we got here? What is one of the biggest mistakes or assumptions you made as a new game studio in the last 6 months? What did you learn or take away from that? I guess one of the things which we've learned is around, it's probably for me specifically, honestly, like, you know, when we give timelines, we should be a bit more loosey-goosey because it's possible that things go back in game design and game development, especially when you're trying to get elements of polish done. So that's one for me. So yeah, aside from a roguelite mode, what other game modes are you at liberty to discuss at this point? I think I've already discussed a decent amount in this video, actually. So I think we'll leave it at that. We will have a cool tower as well, I guess. Maybe that's one that I haven't spoken about with some interesting stuff coming, but I'm not going to go into all the details on that right now. Will there be any data transfer from beta accounts to main game? Again, I go into full detail on that on Thursday's podcast. Ultimately, the answer is no, but there's some good reasons for that. So watch the podcast and you'll be fully informed. Can you elaborate any more on any esports hopes or plans for when normalized PvP is introduced to the game? I know there were some mentions of it before. So yeah, so I think the normalized PvP mode will be really strong for esports stuff, mainly around a draft system, which will be really fun to be involved with. If you've played games like Hearthstone Arena, that's the type of system we're thinking of for drafting. And then I guess this ability to build out teams that can compete in a live matchup will be involved in that as well. So yeah, that's the kind of main thing, which, but again, I'll go into details on the systems as the systems are kind of more fleshed out and easier to sort of share with you, I think. At this point of the dev process, as it concerns gameplay ability or mechanics, what do you feel most and least confident you have right? Interesting. I think, what do I feel we've got most and least right? So I think at the moment, playing through our very early levels, there's things we need to tweak. And you probably would have seen it actually as I'm just playing through some of the early level stuff here. Like at the moment, I don't think we get ultimates quick enough to make them really effective in fights. Albeit all of my heroes are currently naked, and gearing will make a big difference to that. So that's one thing which we need to get right, and that will change the sort of feeling of game balance. There's some things as well which we're actively working on right now. So one of those things is UI. We're making changes again to the UI, which I think we've not got quite right. Some of it feels like it's a bit old school, I guess, or slightly cheapened in things like the HP bars and the divinity meters and stuff like that. So there's some stuff we're changing there. And I think as well, just cameras and game feel is kind of getting closer and closer, but it's still not quite right. So those things are really polish things which happen as we get closer to, putting something out for you guys, I guess. What else have we got here? Is there a feature you really want to fit into the game, but you just aren't able to make it work for whatever reason? There's a feature which I want us to put in that is not going to be in on launch, or probably even close to launch. But it's a throwback to some of my favorite games that I've ever played. Certainly some of the older games. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because we're definitely going to do it. But yeah, there is a feature that I definitely think would be awesome for the game. We're just not in a position that we're ready to get it done. Will the game stick to a fantasy sword and sorcery genre when adding new champions, or will we see more modern legends such as Musketeers, Billy the Kid, Jack the Ripper, Jekyll and Hyde, that type of stuff? Definitely got no reason to not put more modern legends in. Currently, we have no gunpowder in our game. That's a decision that we've made to kind of uphold at the moment. Things can change over time, obviously, but yeah, fantasy, sword and sorcery is definitely our direction at the moment, rather than sort of rather than guns and that type of stuff. And last one here then, from Mr. Sneaky. How do you plan to introduce new content? Is it just going to be hero releases, or are you making big events with stories to implement? I've kind of spoken about it already, actually. There will be some months or releases where it's kind of more hero based, and not just heroes, but heroes, weapons, and small quality of life changes. And there will be bigger seasonal drops where it will be storylines come in and content which kind of flows around that story. So that's probably the vibe. Thank you for all your questions. Hopefully you've all learned some new stuff about GODFORGE today. Make sure you sub to the channel if you enjoy the content and want to know more. And I'll see you in the next one.